Have you ever been walking through a quiet forest or along a country trail when a deer suddenly stopped, looked directly at you, and completely froze? For several long seconds, neither of you moved. The deer didn't run. It didn't continue eating. It simply stood there, staring. Most people assume the deer is frightened. Others believe it's confused. Some even think the animal is curious. But the real reason is far more fascinating. That silent moment isn't hesitation, it's one of the most important decisions the deer will make that day. Long before it chooses to run or remain calm, its brain is gathering information faster than most people can imagine. Every movement you make, every sound you create, even the direction you're walking, the deer is quietly analyzing it all. To us, it feels like nothing is happening. To the deer, everything is happening. The remarkable truth is that deer don't survive because they're the fastest animals in the forest. They survive because they notice small changes long before danger arrives. Their greatest defense isn't speed, it's awareness. Every day, deer live in a world filled with uncertainty. Predators can appear without warning. A quiet woodland can suddenly become dangerous. Even familiar places change from one day to the next. Because of this, deer have evolved to pay attention to the smallest details that most humans never notice. A branch bending in the wrong direction, grass moving when there is no wind, birds suddenly taking flight, a scent drifting through the trees. To us, these are ordinary parts of nature. To a deer, they are pieces of a puzzle. Every clue helps answer one important question. Is it safe to stay? Or is it time to leave? When a human appears, that question becomes even more important. Unlike predators that move silently through the forest, people are often noisy and easy to spot. Our footsteps are heavier, our movements are larger, our voices carry through the trees. The deer usually notices us long before we ever catch a glimpse of its face. By the time our eyes meet, the deer has already gathered a surprising amount of information. It knows how quickly we're moving. It knows whether we're walking directly toward it or simply passing by. It has noticed whether we're alone or with other people. It has even paid attention to our body language. None of this happens through conscious thought, like a person solving a math problem. Instead, the deer's brain constantly compares what it sees with thousands of previous experiences. Every peaceful encounter, every frightening encounter, every successful escape. Together, they create an instinctive understanding of risk. This is why two people can walk through the same forest and receive completely different reactions from the same deer species. One deer may run immediately. Another may stand quietly for several seconds before moving away. The difference isn't random, it's based on what the deer is learning in that exact moment. One of the most surprising discoveries about deer is that they don't simply react to movement, they react to patterns. Animals that survive in the wild become experts at recognizing routines. A farmer driving the same tractor every morning, a jogger using the same trail every afternoon, a dog that always stays behind a fence. Over time, predictable behavior becomes easier to understand. Unpredictable behavior is what attracts attention. That's why a deer may remain surprisingly calm when someone quietly walks along a familiar path. The person is following a pattern the deer has observed before. But if that same person suddenly changes direction, starts running, or walks straight toward the deer, everything changes. The pattern disappears. Now the deer has to make a new decision. This ability to recognize patterns is one of the hidden reasons deer sometimes appear to stare at people. They're not admiring us. They're not trying to communicate. They're collecting information. Every second they remain still allows them to learn a little more. Is this person behaving normally? Are they paying attention to me? Should I prepare to leave? Those silent questions are being answered long before the deer ever takes a single step. And surprisingly, the answers often come from details so small that most people never even realize they're providing them. If you watch a deer carefully, you'll notice something interesting. It doesn't always stare for the same amount of time. Sometimes the glance lasts only a second before the animal quietly disappears into the trees. Other times, it remains perfectly still, watching for what feels like an unusually long moment. That difference isn't random. The deer is simply trying to answer one important question: what happens next? Wild animals don't have the luxury of making careless decisions. Running too soon wastes valuable energy. Waiting too long could be dangerous. Every choice has consequences. So, instead of reacting immediately, the deer pauses. Not because it doesn't know what to do, because it's gathering just enough information to make the safest decision possible. During those few quiet seconds, the deer's senses are working together with remarkable precision. Its large ears rotate independently, collecting sounds from different directions. Even a soft footstep on dry leaves can provide valuable information. Its nose constantly samples the air, searching for scents carried by the breeze. Unlike humans who rely mostly on vision, deer combine sight, sound, and smell into one continuous picture of their surroundings. If those senses all tell the same story, the decision becomes much easier. This is one reason deer often seem so calm when the wind is blowing from you toward them. Your scent hasn't reached them yet. They can see you, they can hear you, but one important piece of the puzzle is still missing. As they continue watching, they're waiting for confirmation. Then everything changes the moment the wind shifts. Suddenly, your scent reaches the deer. Within seconds, the decision is often made. Sometimes it quietly walks away. Other times, it bounds into the forest with astonishing speed. To us, that reaction feels sudden. For the deer, it was simply the final piece of information it had been waiting for. But humans aren't the only thing deer pay attention to. In fact, they're constantly watching the entire environment. Birds suddenly leaving nearby trees, a squirrel giving an alarm call, grass moving in an unusual way, leaves rustling without obvious cause. Each of these small events adds another clue. Nature is full of signals. Most animals spend their lives learning how to interpret them. Deer have become masters at reading those signals because their survival depends on it. They rarely focus on one object alone. Instead, they build a complete picture of everything happening around them. This explains why a deer can appear to be staring directly at you while still noticing movements happening far off to one side. Its attention is much broader than ours. While people often focus on one thing at a time, deer constantly monitor the entire scene. That wide awareness allows them to detect danger before it becomes immediate. It also explains another behavior that many people find surprising. Sometimes a deer sees you, recognizes you, and still doesn't leave. That doesn't necessarily mean it trusts you. It means your behavior matches something familiar. Perhaps you've walked the same trail many times before. Perhaps local hikers pass through the area every day without disturbing wildlife. Over weeks or months, the deer begins to recognize those repeated routines. Not individual names, not personalities, patterns. Animals are exceptional pattern learners. When the same event happens again and again without causing harm, it gradually becomes easier to predict. Predictability reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is often what wild animals fear most. That's why a sudden change captures a deer's attention far more than ordinary movement. A person quietly following a trail may seem completely normal. The same person suddenly stepping off the path toward the deer creates a completely different situation. Instantly, the pattern changes. The deer notices. Its muscles become tense. Its ears move forward. Its attention narrows. The silent evaluation begins again. Should I stay or should I leave? This decision happens countless times throughout every single day. Most of the time, people never even realize it's happening. We simply notice a deer looking at us. But behind that calm stare is an extraordinary mind constantly measuring distance, movement, sound, scent, and experience. Every peaceful encounter becomes another lesson. Every unusual event becomes another memory, and together, those memories quietly shape how the deer responds next time it sees someone walking through its world. As the deer continues watching, something remarkable is happening. It isn't simply deciding whether you're dangerous, it's comparing what it sees now with everything it has experienced before. Every peaceful walk, every unexpected encounter, every successful escape. Those memories help shape its next decision. Unlike people, deer don't need to understand why something happens. They only need to recognize what usually happens next. If a certain pattern has always ended safely, the deer becomes more confident. If that pattern suddenly changes, caution immediately returns. This is why two people can behave differently and receive completely different reactions. Someone walking quietly along a familiar trail may barely disturb the deer. Another person stopping suddenly, pointing or stepping off the path may cause the animal to leave within seconds. The difference isn't the person, it's the change in behavior. To a deer, predictable movement is easier to understand than unpredictable movement. That ability to recognize patterns has helped deer survive for thousands of years. Every day, they quietly build a mental map of their surroundings. They remember where people usually walk. They recognize places that remain peaceful. They notice where dogs often appear. They learn which sounds belong to ordinary life and which ones deserve immediate attention. This constant learning allows them to react with incredible speed when something unusual happens. Many people believe deer freeze because they are confused. In reality, the opposite is often true. The deer is concentrating. For a few brief seconds, it is gathering every piece of information available before making its choice. That pause may look simple, but it represents one of nature's most effective survival strategies. Running immediately every time something moves would waste enormous amounts of energy. Ignoring possible danger would be even worse. Instead, the deer finds a balance. Observe first, decide second, act only when necessary. That quiet process happens countless times throughout every day. Most of us simply never notice it. The next time you see a deer standing perfectly still, try paying attention to the environment around it. Listen to the birds, watch the movement of the grass, notice the direction of the wind. Look at the path between you and the deer. You'll begin to realize that the deer isn't focused on only one thing. It's watching everything. Every sound, every movement, every change. Its world is built from tiny details that most people walk past without ever seeing. Perhaps that's why these encounters feel so memorable. For a brief moment, you aren't simply looking at a wild animal, you're witnessing one of nature's oldest survival skills in action. The deer isn't staring because it's curious about who you are. It isn't wondering where you came from, and it certainly isn't trying to send a mysterious message. It's doing something far more extraordinary. It's reading the world. Every second you remain in view provides another clue. Your walking speed, your direction, your posture, the sounds you make, even whether you continue following the same path. All of those details become part of the decision. Then, almost without warning, the moment arrives. Sometimes the deer lowers its head and quietly returns to feeding. Other times it turns gracefully and disappears into the trees with a few effortless bounds. That decision may seem sudden to us, but in reality, it began long before the deer ever stopped to look. It began the instant it first noticed you entering its environment. Everything that followed simply helped complete the picture. Perhaps that's the hidden reason deer suddenly freeze and stare at humans. They're not hesitating, they're observing, they're comparing, they're recognizing patterns that most of us never notice. And once enough information has been gathered, the decision becomes surprisingly simple. Stay or leave. The next time you meet a deer in the quiet of a forest or along a peaceful trail, resist the urge to assume it's confused or frightened. Instead, remember that you're witnessing an animal doing exactly what evolution prepared it to do. Quietly studying the world, patiently collecting information, making careful decisions based on experience rather than impulse. In many ways, deer remind us of something we've largely forgotten. The world is constantly speaking through small details. The movement of the wind, the behavior of birds, the rhythm of familiar paths. The tiny changes that happen every single day. Most of us are too busy to notice them, but deer notice. They always have. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson they offer us. Sometimes the most important information isn't hidden. It's simply waiting in the quiet moments that most people never stop to see. The next time a deer freezes and looks directly at you, you may find yourself seeing that moment differently, not as a strange pause, but as a silent conversation between a wild animal and the world around it. A conversation built entirely on observation, awareness, and the remarkable ability to recognize what others miss.